From ICU nurse to boardrooms and billion-dollar deals, Di Mantell knows what it takes to lead, stay relevant, and build a legacy that matters. Di is a board director, keynote speaker, and CEO of Celsius, overseeing Australia's largest hospital infrastructure project at the Royal Adelaide Hospital. From ICU nurse at 23 to pioneering billion-dollar sustainability deals in healthcare, Di's career is proof that leadership has no expiry date. She's known for reshaping how we think about influence, legacy, and staying useful long after the titles change. Di's voice cuts through the noise with clarity, warmth, and decades of real-world execution. And I'm looking forward to her sharing some of her wisdom with us today. So welcome, Di.
Thank you so much for having me, Julie.
Such a pleasure. Now, Di, as I mentioned in the intro, you're a CEO and a board director. So was there a pivotal moment in your career that set your trajectory and helped you realize the leader that you wanted to be?
I think it was a personal moment, not a professional moment, that set my trajectory. I made a decision to get divorced. Didn't come to that easily, I'd like to say. But once I knew that, and I made a decision to leave the eastern states, I was working in Greater Murray Health Service in Wagga and Tumut at the time, and I made the decision to leave to go to Kalgoorlie to work. Now, Kalgoorlie, for those who don't know, is 600 kilometres from Perth. It's not near anything. It's an amazing piece of Western Australia that is worth visiting. But in doing that, I took this major leap. I didn't know anybody there. I didn't know anybody in the hospital. I didn't know anyone in the town. And I was aware that in doing that, I had to make all the decisions myself and back the decisions that I was going to do. And I think that was probably the first time that I'd really cleared a path and decided this is what I wanted to do and that I would take that for whatever it was. Lots of people said, what happens if you don't like it? I said, that's easy. I'll go and do something else. So I think that was probably the first trigger. And then I think the second one was when I got the CEO job for the role I'm in now, which just changed my world significantly. So I think those 2 points were what tipped me into something different.
That is incredibly courageous to move so far away from where you have been and where all your networks are. Did you feel trepidation when you made the move?
No, I think I had this youthful optimism that, this would be really interesting and exciting.
Yeah.
And I don't think I really thought a lot about it. There was a lot going on clearly, in the background to decide to go. But I felt that I needed to do something quite different. The advantage of being a nurse is that you do have lots of options. If you don't like it, you can go and work for someone else. You can get casual work or you can go to another site. So I knew I had choices, but I didn't really think I needed them. I figured that this was going to be incredible. I thought I would go there and stay there. That's not how it worked out. But I think going to a place where you absolutely know nobody, absolutely, because even when I did the interview, I didn't go to Kalgoorlie. I did it in Perth.
Okay.
But when you go somewhere where you don't know anywhere, it forces you to get out and meet people and really make decisions and be brave and take those steps that you wouldn't necessarily do if you're in a very comfortable zone, I don't think.
Time that shaped you and how you are now, I think. So speaking of sort of the industry and the areas that you've worked in, which is infrastructure, healthcare, and sustainability, they're often very male dominated. So what's kept you grounded and growing as a leader and the leader that you want to be over the years rather than getting sort of pulled into that, I suppose, conforming to how it is?
Yeah, you're right. They are very male-dominated areas, and they remain that today. I mean, I've been doing this in project world now for about 20-something years, and they still remain like that. I think I was really I've always been really true to myself. So what you get on any given day for me at work, at home, in a social setting is exactly the same. And I think making sure that you're not trying to be something that you're not is really important.
Mm.
To me, whilst I had to meet with a lot of very diverse males in the different groups that I met, I think knowing that my values were very solid and strong were what kept me going. I've had to stretch and I've had to really think about it. Have I sworn in meetings like the guys do? Yes, sometimes, but it's not my go-to. But sometimes you've just got to make your stand about where you're going and whatnot. I've always been clear that I've got, if I'm in a room, I'm there for a reason, and somebody believes that I've got something to add to what's going on. So when there was a conversation being had one day, and I've talked about this a lot, that I was in a room with about 30 people. They were all males other than me. The only other female in the room was a tea lady. Yes, they had a tea lady. And I sat there for a bit at the start and thought, I don't know why I'm here. I don't
Mm.
know what it is that I've got. And after some time and watching and listening, and there were lawyers and there were builders and there were infrastructure people and whatnot, I realized I was actually the only person in the room who actually knew how to run a hospital or had ever run a hospital. And so my secret sauce in here for what I would bring to the table was that. So when they would put forward that we should do something, whatever, then I could say, that's not going to work. Or, yeah, that would be amazing. So it's drawing on the reason that you've got those roles and what you bring to the table. And no matter what the environment you are in, you've got somewhere that you can fit into and add that there. It's been the same in a number of roles around the sustainability component or not. Again, it's, my background, and I've had exposure to some incredible and amazing people over time, gives you those skills to say, yes, I am out of my depth sometimes, and I may be in a room that I don't know anybody or I've only know two people. But if you've got good values and you remain authentic and true to yourself, then you can bring your true self to the table and you do have something to offer. And it's being brave. Like the first time I made a comment, I was probably like, yeah, excuse me. And now it's like, excuse me. So it is getting brave to actually step up and make sure that you are heard in those conversations and that you can actually make a difference.
Yes, that's such great advice for people too. And what I'd love to know is it seems that you have been very anchored to who you are, your values for quite a long time. Is that just something that you've instinctively known, sort of who you are, the value that you bring, or is it something that you have developed over time?
No, I think it's definitely developed over time. I
Mm.
think, when you're a young person getting your first management job, so my first management role was in ICU at the tender age of 23. I didn't want the role. I didn't think I was suitable for the role. I knew other people in my ward that we were working in ICU had applied for the role. And when I got asked to do it, I said no. And then this was from the director of nursing. And then when she asked me the second time, I'd had a pep talk from my mum who was working there, and I still said no. And then it occurred to me much, much later, when I said I'd take the role for 6 weeks, and I ended up doing it for 9 years. But not good at saying no, clearly. But what I would say to people is, I didn't think I could do that role, and I didn't think that was my skill set, and I didn't think I was ready. But when you get those opportunities and you are not sure about them, and someone says you should do this, it's important to ask them, what is it you see in me that you think that I can do this job? And I don't think we ask that often enough. Often it's like, oh no, I'm just not good enough, and you walk away, or you jump in and go, and people fail because they're not sure why they're doing what they're doing. But to me, being able to figure out later what it was that they saw in me, that I was grounded, that I was fairly rational about what I was doing, that I had the technical skills to do it. The
Mm.
problem in nursing is we teach everyone the technical skills, and then you often put someone into a management role with no management skills. So it is a big leap of faith, and often people, and this applies in lots of industries, people don't get there because they haven't had that bridge of skill development to get them across. So I made a decision to then go and do a tertiary course. So I did my Bachelor of Health Science Management. So I actually had theory behind what I was doing, so I could feel more confident in what I was doing. But yeah, it's a skill that if I think people evolve over time. I don't think it's something that everybody comes along with and you go, well, you're either good at it or you're not. I think
Yeah.
you can definitely learn to get there.
Yeah. Love it. So let's talk about something that you are passionate about, and that is this common myth that leadership has an expiry date. Um, and not even leadership, but I think careers as well. But talking about leadership, and especially for women, what is your take on that? And how have you challenged it personally?
Leadership evolves, it doesn't expire. And I would challenge anyone to say that it does. For me, whenever you've got a purpose for doing things and you want to make a difference, then you should be allowed to do that in whatever forum that is. Your forums may have to change, or your platforms for doing those things may change, but absolutely, you don't get to somebody and go, well, that's it, and now I'm off. You're no longer useful. I think some people elect to not want to keep going. That's different.
Mm.
But I think if you've got a really strong skill base and you want to continue giving in whatever form that is, then you need to find a way to be able to do that. I am clearly passionate about it. And for me, I've had some incredible opportunities. I think I counted up, I've had 27 roles, I think, in my time. I started as a ballroom Latin American dancing teacher. So I've come a little bit of a way to being CEO, but um, each of those things has taught me something. And for me, there is always the opportunity for you to give back. And that's what matters to me now. I love mentoring people. I love coaching people. I just love being there to be a soundboard for people to share about what they're thinking or why they think they can't do things. So for me, it's about being curious, it's about being clear, and it's about being courageous about what you can do. And I think there's a real opportunity that you can do amazing things, either in a paid role or a not paid role. It's your choice what you do. But I think the skills and the knowledge that people have, it's important that there's opportunities to continue to feed back and give back to people who are still coming through.
Yeah, absolutely. And I believe, what you're talking about there is very much about your purpose. Like, what is driving you to do what you do? And then, as you say, staying relevant. How can that evolve? How can that translate into other areas? But it's really about understanding your purpose and why you want to do what you want to do. And that can really create that motivation. But you mentioned before that you mentor and you also advocate for women in leadership and on board. So what do you believe is still holding women back right now? Because from when you were talking about that story about you being the only woman around that table, I don't think it was that long ago, right?
Yeah, I think there's a lot about being brave. I
Mm.
think we need to acknowledge some people don't want to step up. Some people don't want to be at
Yeah.
the front, and some people are very happy doing what they do and going home, and that's perfectly fine. And there's also a number of people, and there's many of my friends who get to a point and go, "I'm out. I want to retire. I'm fine." And for those people that works for, that is perfectly fine. No one says you have to keep doing crazy stuff like probably me. Um, but I think for people who do want to do it, I think what does hold us back a lot is waiting for permission to step
Mm.
forward. I think there's a lot about, and it's been talked about for a very long time, that if we look at, a job description and there's 10 things on it, unless we've got the 10 things ticked, we don't apply. Whereas some of our other colleagues would look at it and go, I've got 3, that's enough. So I think it is working out how you actually tick the box, but you don't have to tick all of them. I think the other thing, and I've talked to a number of people that I've mentored about this, that when you are doing an application for something and you're putting down what you've done, don't only put down your professional experience. If you happen to be the treasurer of the local footy club or you're the coordinator of the netball organisation or whatever those skills are that you use outside of work, they can still be applicable in an application. That's still managing teams, financial expertise and those sorts of things. Often much trickier in a volunteer organisation than it is in some others. So do that. But I think we don't tend to pursue sponsorship opportunities. So we talk a lot about mentoring, but I don't think we necessarily talk about seeking out sponsors to help promote you through organisations. And I think a sponsor can give you opportunities and open doors that you may not otherwise be able to get through. But I think the overarching thing is we just need to be brave. If you step up and it doesn't happen, whatever it is you're seeking, that's okay. That's experience still at writing a CV and getting an interview or finding how it works. And that all counts for the next time that you do it. And if you're not getting the roles that you want, go back and get the feedback from the people that tell you that you didn't get it and why you didn't get it. And don't assume you know why, because you might be really wrong and you'll miss, and then you're doing the same process next time and then it doesn't work again. So it is being brave, but seeking feedback so that you can actually feed forward to make those next steps.
I love that, Di. And, everything that you've spoken about really has that underlying thing about being brave, even reaching out and asking for someone to sponsor you to help you progress. I know a lot of women struggle with that. Like they think, oh, they're too busy, or why would they help me? Or there's just so much doubt that goes through their mind where they haven't asked the question yet. I mean, I used to be like that too. Like if someone said that to me when I was in corporate, I'd be like, why would they do that? What am I going to say? All the reasons why I couldn't.
Yeah, it is really hard. And it's the first time you ask, it's really, really hard. And the second time you ask, it's less hard. But it's also going to people that you have a relationship with and someone that you feel comfortable with. So, find people that you can see support you and understand what it is you're trying to do. So see if you can find a connection through that. Don't just randomly choose someone that you've got no relationship with who's going to wonder, well, why would I do that?
Yeah.
And talk to your colleagues about, has anybody else done it? Have you got someone, or have they identified anyone in the organisation that does champion people, male or female, to be sponsored to help them go forward in roles? So, do your homework, but don't discount it as an option for you.
Amazing. There's so much gold in what you have shared with us today. And I was going to ask you a question about your mindset, but I think in what you've shared, we can really dig into what your mindset really is all about. So what I'd love for you to share is, what would you say to someone who feels like their worth or value has expired? And I know there's a lot of women who are not necessarily at the end of their careers, who are feeling unvalued, they're feeling unseen and unheard right now. So what would you say to them if they feel like they've missed their moment or they don't have anything new to offer as a leader?
Where you are right now, or the title that you've got right now, doesn't define you. Like that's not it. If you want to do something else, then you need to be clear and you need to be able to articulate what that is. But the opportunities are really broad out there at the moment about what you want. I'm not saying it's easy, but I think courage gets you a really long way. And I think if you try something and you sound it out with some of your friends. So you go, I want to really do this thing and I haven't done it before. Can I just talk through with you about how that might work? And they'll go, sure. And your friends will give you really strong feedback. So be really clear about that. But I think the scars and the stories and what makes you you are the things that will define where you can go next. And I think it's often ourselves that hold us back, going, oh, well, they wouldn't want me, or, I'm past my prime, or, they want somebody who's 25 and whatnot. That's probably not true, unless that's laid out in the job description. That's not how it works. So you need to be courageous. You need to seek out seats at the table, and you need to find people that you find think like you do so that you can take those steps forward. Because if you don't try, you'll never know.
Exactly. And as Yoda says, there is no try, there is do or do not. That's one of my favorite quotes from little Yoda. So I love what you're sharing there. And I also think that we need to be demonstrating our potential as well. It's not just being sort of operating how we are right now. It's thinking about and operating like the person that we want to become, and demonstrating how we would add value in the future, or whatever that looks like, whether we're going up or down or sideways, whatever that looks like for you. So it's thinking broadly, and like you say, the courage comes before confidence. You're not going to get the confidence unless you are courageous, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And do not be a victim. The victim is the most undermining thing that you will become. If you really think you're being given a hard time or you're not being given a fair chance to things, go and explore that and sort it out. Do not hold on to that.
Yeah.
The world does not owe you a living. I think that's important for people to know. But you have got amazing opportunities out there. You need to do the work, and then you need to put yourself forward and say that this is what you want to do. But if you don't step forward and say that when people offer you something, they probably don't know you want to do it. Lots of people just think you're happy in your own little box, doing your own stuff and whatnot, if you've never put your hand up and say, what about me for doing those things? So the onus is on you to step forward and put your voice out there. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but you won't know if you don't try.
Yeah, absolutely. Di, that is gold. And I think it's a great place for us to finish our conversation. So thank you so much for being part of the Leading You podcast and for sharing your wisdom and so many gold nuggets in there. So I know my listeners are going to get an incredible amount from what you have shared with us today. So thank you so much.
Oh, Julie, thank you so much for having me. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thanks, Di.